Hello everyone and welcome to Moved by the Music. Today I'm speaking with the exceptional singer, songwriter, and guitarist Cam Corvet. Cam has traveled the world with his guitar in hand, performing as a solo acoustic act, opening up shows for Erica Badu, Chaka Khan, Adele, Tamia, and so many more. With his creative drive and passionate nature, Cam composed and co-wrote the international hit song Don't Make Me Wait for superstars Sting and Shaggy's reggae album 44876, which now has been nominated for a 2019 Grammy. As a strong songwriter in the industry, Cam has created songs for many names such as Case, Freddie Jackson, Angie Stone, and more. Today, we will talk about his new single, Give It a Try, and learn about what's next for him. Killer Cam Corvet, it's a pleasure to have you on Moved by the Music.
Hey Desirae, what's up? I'm glad to be on your Person of Prominence today. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's good to talk to you today. So, okay, you've been to many, many places. So for those out there who do not know some of your history and some of your upbringing, tell everybody where you're from and how you ended up in Atlanta.
So I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that was really where I got a large part of my musical exposure and my desire to try my hand at the music industry in general. When I finished with high school and all that, I spent some time actually being an athlete, running track for maybe a year or so, and then the drive or the desire to really go to a place where I could kind of venture more into the music scene became more apparent. So I, packed up everything and came to Atlanta and kind of got my start here. And since then, I've just used Atlanta as a home base to kind of travel from and, try new music out in or whatever. It's a great place where a lot of transplants come, but at the same time, it isn't as wild and crazy as in New York, and it isn't as far away as in LA. So it's been a good place for me, for sure.
All right. It's kind of a place that's right there in the middle where you can do what you need to do and develop your talent even more and travel where you need to go. So you've been a ton of places that I see. So you also went to school out there, right?
Yeah, I went to Morehouse, and then I also went to Georgia State as well after finishing at Morehouse.
Okay, nice. So, like many singers and songwriters, and there's so many, developing a love for music started early on, just like for you. So, for instance, your parents bought you an acoustic guitar in high school. Is that something, I'm just curious, is that something that they wanted you to try, or was it something that you had an interest in developing? How did that come about?
Well, I mean, my interest in the guitar in general came from a combination of a couple of things. One, I come from a musical family on my mom's side, so everybody plays an instrument or sings or does both. And when I would be at Sunday service, I never noticed anyone playing the guitar. That was the only instrument that was missing. I mean, bass guitar was there, but there was no lead guitar. So that immediately gave me an opening to feel like I could evolve to instantly and contribute if I, got a guitar. And the next step after that was trying to convince my parents to go along with it, which it took a bit of convincing. But oh yeah, it was not easy, but I kind of played it like, hey, I have all these songs in my head. I'd love to be able to get them out, and the guitar would help me do that. There were a couple of key releases that really inspired Babyface as a songwriter and musician inspired me to want to play acoustic. There was a song he released when I was, I can't even remember. I was like, my uncle's a huge Babyface fan, so anytime something Babyface came out, I always had to listen to it, But fortunately enough for me, Babyface is super dope, always has been dope. But he had a song called When Can I See You Again? And my uncle gave me a Babyface CD back in the day. And he was like, man, you need to listen to this. You would probably pick up some stuff. And I heard that song and I heard the guitar and it just was music to my ears. So it kind of made me want to dive in that way. And ever since then, I've been hooked.
Wow, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Because it's like you were saying that your parents, your mom's side of the family, all played instruments, but you noticed while you were in church, you never saw an acoustic guitar, and so you wanted to talk to your parents about getting one. What was the turning point then for them to actually go ahead and go along with what you were saying? Was it just because they saw that you were so driven and so interested in it?
I would say some of it is that, but, you know, my dad was against it because he was like, he doesn't know how to play. Why would we buy him a guitar? He doesn't know how to play. And my mom was kind of like, he'll learn. Christmas, I owe it all to Christmas, you know. Parents get their kids stuff and they don't know whether 6 months later they really wanted it or not. But at the time, it's just something they talk about all the time. So for me, it was a good idea to have bugged them about it for so long because Christmas gave me an opportunity for there to be a reason to get it for me.
Okay,
and once they got it for me, the rest was on me. You know what I mean?
I hear you. So looking back on that now, do they look back on those moments when, you know, you wanted to play and they look at you now? How do they feel about what you're doing now?
I think for my dad, because he didn't understand it to begin with, it really still kind of surprises him because, you know, I never took lessons or anything. I'm completely self-taught. So that element of itself, I think, was the first thing that kind of took my parents by surprise. And then writing songs and that type of thing. When I really got into the music industry as an independent artist, I was already away from home. So some of it was out of sight, out of mind. You could tell your pops, like, hey, man, I'm doing shows and, you know, I got groupies or whatever the case may be. And he's just like, yeah, whatever, you know. But after a while, there were some opportunities for me to really show them that I had learned. My mom's first show, she came down to Atlanta and saw me open up for Dwelle, and it was just me and the guitar. So for her, that was like a full circle moment. And my dad has had similar experiences as well. And as I've been writing songs and the whole nine, it's kind of just begun to materialize a little bit more in their minds.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. I just was curious because, you know, sometimes, you know, parents don't quite understand, you know, when, you know, their kids are growing up, how passionate they really are until later on they see them in their zone. They're like, wow, you know, I guess I was wrong. I guess you really were, you know, that much involved and everything. So thank you for sharing that. And I also noticed with you, though, you get a lot of your inspiration from the world around you. Like, there's this line you used, I guess you were dealing with Bank of America, but it was like, it was better to keep your money in your mattress. It was too funny. I was cracking up. So is it that easy for you to, like, just like on a whim, it was just so simple for you to come up with that, like real life situations? Do you believe that, you know, as an artist, you know, with all that you've been through and seen and experienced, do you think that real life situations make the best music because they come from a relatable source?
I completely agree. I think it gets a little interesting, a little murky when you're trying to write a song for someone else because you're trying to, you know, compose an idea for someone that you might not have ever met. So you can be shooting in the dark in a lot of those situations. So it's harder but easier at the same time because if you're talking about something that everybody has experienced and you're speaking about it in a way that people can understand you, I think you're going to win every time. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you got to have melody, you got to have rhythm and all of that. But if the words you're saying are words people say all the time, and they're not, I don't want to say too high level, like audiences out there aren't intelligent, because I like to think that my audience is very progressive and intelligent. But at the same time, you got to give them something that they can. If they only have one listen, you want to make sure that they want to listen to it again. So if you're going with that type of method, you got to make sure that what you're saying is very relatable. It's very digestible in terms of the type of words you use, and
right.
You know, the melody and the rhythm are memorable.
Right. And I agree with that too. I mean, there's so many things, you know, that the world, you know, has that give us inspiration. So what is the song process, the writing process like for you? Do you have a method that you use to develop a song, or is it more from, okay, I know what this artist wants to do, I know what they're talking about, so let me go ahead and plug this out? How does that work for you? Is it over a couple of days? Is it a couple of hours? How does that work?
It all varies. I mean, I think because I started out writing for myself, there's always that element that when I write for myself, there's no holds barred because mainly because I know what I can pull off singing wise.
Mm-hmm.
There's, you know, when you're writing for someone else, you don't know whether they can really hit every note that you're plotting out for them to hit. So you think a song is great, and it is, but then nobody can sing it. So it's just sitting on your computer forever. So it's like you kind of have to toe the line between doing your due diligence on whatever artist you're trying to get a song placed on, meaning there are certain situations where you just know people are recording and you want to try to submit a song to them, and you got to do your best to come up with something you think they'll like. Those situations are very difficult. In other situations, you could be put in a position to where you're in the studio with the artist. That's the best situation because then you can bounce the ideas off of the artist in real time. So you know the artist is invested in the song once it's done. That's the ideal situation. Other than that, method for me is rhythm, melody, and lyrics in any order. I used to be so stuck on, okay, let's do a scratch melody with a rhythm first, and then we go back and plug the words in later. But I've proven myself wrong on a couple of occasions when it comes to that. For example, Don't Make Me Wait, that was a freestyle, you know what I mean? So you can't, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of writing about experiences and writing about it in a certain way that people are going to understand. When you have your phone in front of you, you have a pen and notepad or whatever it is you use to jot down ideas, sometimes it can restrict you from saying what's natural. So a lot of times for me, the songwriting process can just end up being a freestyle where, you know, there'll be a musical instrumental on or something like that. I press record. I usually don't like to listen to it prior to recording. I just like to put it in the computer, press record, and let the music kind of guide me where I want to go. And just sometimes if there's something in mind, I'll just start freestyling about it. Other times it's a combination of words, melodies. It could be anything. And then you go back and you go through the editing process of refining it after that point.
Kind of like that little short Bank of America song you did.
Exactly. I was experiencing something, you know. I felt like I had gotten bamboozled a little bit, and I wanted to take to social media just to express myself. And in those situations, I don't know why, but it's always easy for me. I don't overthink it. You know what I mean? Overthinking can like take you out of the game a lot. But when you're going based on emotion and you know for sure what you're writing about, it makes it a lot easier.
Yes, that was great. Okay, so what is the story behind how you even came to link up with Sting and Shaggy and write the song?
The song was just destined to go to them. I mean, I did not have any relationships with either Sting or Shaggy for the situation to work out the way that it did. It was completely divinely engineered, I would say. It was on a Sunday. I came up with the guitar part for the song, and I just freestyled. Something that I felt would go with it. I mean, it has a very kind of Saturday afternoon, summertime, you know, swinging in the hammock with, you know, whoever you're kicking it with, and type of vibe at least. So the words just kind of came naturally. But again, I didn't overthink it. It's not too wordy. I just made sure that the concept that I was trying to get across was said or sung in a way that would be memorable. And at that point, it was just a chorus and guitars. I passed it around to a couple of different collaborators that I know, and they kind of dug the idea, and we kind of made somewhat of a demo out of it with my chorus still there. And then the song ended up eventually landing in the hands of Shaggy after another collaborator of mine contributed to the verse part of the song, one of the verses of the song. He loved the song. So I get a call like, hey, man, Shaggy loves the song. And I'm like, wow, you know, okay. So at first I was still going to be on the chorus. So it was going to be Shaggy featuring me. And I'm like, all right, great. That's a 2-for-1 special, if you will. So I'm like on cloud 9, and then 2 weeks later I get a call. It's like, Cam, I got some good news and some bad news. And I'm like, oh, okay, give me the bad news first. They're like, well, the bad news is you're not going to be the featured artist on the song anymore. I'm like, all right, cool, it's cool. And they're like, well, but the good news is Sting is actually going to be singing the chorus and helping to finish the song. I'm like, even better. So that situation came about because Shaggy was in L.A. working on a completely unrelated project with Sting's manager. And during a break in that session, Shaggy played a collection of song ideas unreleased for him. And he really took to Don't Make Me Wait and was like, you know who I think would be great on this song? And he was like, Sting. And he called Sting and told him he had a song he wanted to send to him, a song idea. He sent the song to Sting, and Sting showed up 45 minutes later at the studio singing the song, and they started the recording process at that point. So, I mean, obviously, that was amazing, dream come true. But even after the song was recorded, it sat for another year to a year and a half. So a lot of people don't realize that's a part of the songwriting process as well. Like, you have to be, it's really sowing and reaping in songwriting, because the song doesn't come out the next day. You know what I mean? So you can't get excited. I could get excited at the time, but there really wasn't too much to get excited about until it got released. So what ended up happening is the song sat for another year until Sting called Shaggy and said, hey, man, what are you doing with that song, man? It's a hit, I'm telling you. And they got together and created an entire album based on that song. So that song gave them an opportunity to have the chemistry in the studio, or to see what the chemistry was. They hit it off super well, even though they knew each other. Working with someone, you don't know whether you can work with someone well if you have a good working relationship. So that song gave them a platform to establish a working relationship and a friendship. And they ended up creating an entire album called 44876, which is tinged in the same way. It's kind of like a half pop, half reggae, and there's a little rock in there too. It's amazing album. So it was just,
they are amazing artists, and they definitely did the right thing by going with that song. And it's kind of ironic, as you were talking, I was listening to how you said, because it's true. You know, just because you develop something one day doesn't mean it's going to be seen or released, you know, the next day. And people do that all the time. We sit on things for years sometimes until they're finally able to be shown. And it's kind of ironic that this song is called Don't Make Me Wait, you know.
Right, and I waited a whole lot.
You know, I was thinking that it's like ironic that it's called Don't Make Me Wait, and you waited. But you know what thing is with creativity, you know, and I notice when I talk to people about, you know, being creative, and that's a part of the process, like you were saying. You can create something and have all these ideas in your head, and creativity never stops though. It's constant. So that whole process of you creating the song and having Sting and Shaggy take it upon themselves was all part of, like you said, the divine energy that was around it. It was already meant to be, but I just think it's ironic that it was called Don't Make Me Wait and you had to wait so long.
Right. I mean, I remember telling my dad, and my dad, he was kind of like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? And after a while, you know, when you wait a year for something, for anything, your commitment to that idea is tested a lot. For me, I think the waiting gave me an opportunity to make sure that I was continuing to do more work and to develop further as a songwriter, as an artist, musician, in every way, so that once the song did come out and I got the opportunity to get a one-time rehearsal with Sting and Shaggy to see if you know, I would be a good fit in some of these shows, it paid off, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it did. It paid off, and also, you know, good things come to those who wait. But there's a lot of synchronicity that's involved with that whole thing, with him being in the studio that particular day and, you know, Shaggy talking to him and developing. So it was all part of, you know, a bigger plan for you, which you don't see happening at first until you get to it later, which is an awesome story that you shared. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
So I want to talk a little bit about Let's Give It a Try. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song that comes from your heart, and it's about changing your mind, and, you know, kind of like this time wanting to give it a try with someone. There was a verse that you have in there that says, suddenly my nights ain't the same when you're not around. As a real life example, is that kind of how someone starting to creep into your heart when you can't get them off of your mind? You're just doing random things in your day and they're just there.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to me in relationships and being real, because as a songwriter for other people, you live in this fantasy world sometimes. You're creating off of what you perceive to be someone else's existence. So when you try to circle back and write for yourself, you are caught in limbo between your reality and creating something that you think people want to hear, and people want to hear from the source. So for me, I wanted to write a song that was positive about love, but at the same time express an authenticity to me about how I relate to it. So in the passage you talked about, suddenly my nights ain't the same when you're not around. The next line is, it's not as easy as it seems when you're having bad dreams and I'm out of town, which is a real life thing for me because I travel a lot. And to be in a relationship with me, you can't be weak when it comes to how you perceive the concept of groupies or how you perceive the concept of infidelity or whatever the case may be, because if that's the way you are coming in, you'll never be comfortable with me being gone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Never be comfortable, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a big part of kind of what makes me apprehensive to get involved with people, whether or not they're going to want to make me try to tailor make my vision, which I feel like I was given to, this is my mission, the reason why I'm here. I don't think that's a negotiable type of thing, but you can make some adjustments, but give it a try is about being willing to make that adjustment for me, which is a big deal because I know how much, I'm invested into my career.
Yeah, I love that you said that about, someone who's willing to, deal with all those things that go on with somebody being passionate. Not just with music, but you don't negotiate with your passion. It's like a non-negotiable thing. When you're passionate about something, you wake up thinking about it. You go to bed thinking about it. You eat, sleep, and dream about it. It's not going to go away just because you're in a relationship or just because you're a mother or a father or you have this situation in life where people are looking at you a certain way. Whatever you're passionate about is not going to be thwarted, so to speak, because when it comes from a deeper place, it's not something that somebody else can get rid of.
Exactly. It makes it difficult though, right? Because you would think, right, if you're passionate about something, that it would make sense to be involved with somebody who's in the same industry in some way. But I feel like that can be difficult also, because if they have a passion in the same industry, then where do you find time? Whose passion wins? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's been I don't want to say it's been a struggle, but it's just been a Rubik's Cube that I haven't been willing to, try to figure out all at one time. I get pieces of information here and there from people I know and from my own experiences, and then I try to tease it out in a song, because I didn't know when I wrote Give It a Try we would have this conversation, but these types of conversations allow me to be able to think more deeply about things that I created that came from a pure place of emotion after the fact,
Right. Love that you share that. And, speaking of, things that are challenging sometimes and, with what you do, you have a very creative nature. So you're doing a lot of your songwriting and it's coming from, a deeper place. So what do you find, aside from, the relationship aspect of everything and being a musician, what do you find to be the most challenging part of what you do, as well as the most rewarding part of what you do?
I think the most challenging part of what I do is being alone. You know what I mean?
Okay.
For the most part, as an independent artist, you are subject to whatever the resources are that are around you. And if you don't have any resources, you are the resource. You are the way that things get done. So as a result of doing it over a few years, you start to acquire all these other skill sets, which make you basically have a 24-hour 6-hour, 7-day-a-week job. You know, you could segment it and say, okay, in the morning I'm going to send all my business emails and take care of any errands, banking, you know, depositing a check from a show or this or that, paying musicians, doing rehearsals. And then by the afternoon, now it becomes more artist time. I'm going to do sessions. I'm going to songwrite. And then in the evening, I'm going to go to events because I need to be seen. And, you know, that has been a challenging part doing that because you spend a lot of time alone, man. People have schedules. They have lives. So when I'm free, a lot of people aren't free. It's very sporadic. And I consider myself someone who likes interaction. I thrive off of it in many ways. So it's been a challenging part. That's been a challenging part. The other challenging part has been being an artist that is very diverse when it comes to taste. I love a lot of different types of music. I've been influenced by a lot of different artists, and all of that is inside of what it is I do. I think the thing about creating a song that I got to collaborate with Sting and Shaggy on is, I mean, for Sting, I went through a huge Police and Sting phase where I just listened to nothing but those records. So it was like a full circle moment to be able to be around somebody who I was influenced by and then have them teach me things totally unrelated to music but related to music. The first time,
that's awesome.
the first time I ever had the rehearsal that I had with Sting and Shaggy, I was supposed to be there at 3, let's say. And I got there early. I was there around 2:50, and I'm like, okay. Stayed outside and just tried to gather my thoughts for a second. Well, when I went inside, I ended up pressing the wrong button for the elevator and going to the wrong floor, which made me about 5 minutes late. When I walked in, they were already there, sitting there, and it was like all eyes on me when I walked in.
Yeah.
And it was like there was a conversation I had, not with Sting and Shaggy, but out, separately from that, with the team that was just kind of like, hey, just FYI, they're always early,
Yeah.
So it was just a thing, where I got to experience what it's like to, this is the best. I'm full of analogies, so forgive me in advance.
Oh no, I'm like that as well. Go right ahead.
I used to teach middle school, and I used to tell my students that were in 8th grade, especially the boys, I would just try to break it to them. I said, man, look, you're at the top of the totem pole now. I know you feel like you have made it, but trust me, next year you go right back to the bottom. You know what I mean?
Right,
and
right.
You're going to be the freshman, and all the freshman girls are going to be, new fresh faces to the sophomore boys, and the sophomore boys are going to say, hey, I'll they're going to sweep them off their feet. You know what I mean? And you're going to feel like you're at the bottom of the totem pole until you get to that point. So for me, everything that I had done prior to Sting and Shaggy, which had been quite a bit, I had opened for Adele before meeting Sting and Shaggy, but that situation in that rehearsal put me right back down to the freshman boy status.
Right,
you know
right. You felt it. You can kind of feel that too. Like you felt it when you walked in the room. Like, you know what? I've done tons of stuff in my life, but this puts me like right back at the beginning.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I mean, from that situation, I was able to see, okay, this is what success looks like, and this is what superstar status success looks like. Sting and Shaggy are superstars, and to see them still be early, you would expect someone who's worth millions of dollars to maybe be 5 minutes later. No, they're still early.
Right,
it set a standard for me. Like, all right, the hardest part about it for me is, making sure that people understand that there's a lot of musical influences in what I do. I don't want to be relegated to just being an urban artist or an R&B artist, which people want to try to put these constructs on you in order for you to limit yourself. But the hardest thing for me is then, all right, maybe if everybody's saying this, maybe if everybody's wanting me to do this and I'm having all these conversations, maybe that's what I need to do. And then all of a sudden I get my biggest placement and it's a reggae record. You know what I mean? So it just lets me know, like, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's okay to be multifaceted. Those are the people that I've patterned myself after. My involvement with Sting and Shaggy has let me know that I'm on the right path. And the hardest part is just believing that you are on the right path. Even, it's easier to believe you're on the right path when everybody in the audience is clapping for you, but when you're in a bar playing and nobody's there and people are talking over you, it's difficult to feel like you're still doing the right thing.
Right. It's probably difficult to see, the forest from the trees. And I get what you're saying, too, because, that whole scenario with you getting there early but still being late, it kind of just set the standard for you in your mind that, they're there on time and they're probably not even trying to hear, nobody cares why you're late. They just know that you're late.
That's right.
Nobody cares why you're late. They just know that you're late. There's no rhyme or reason for it. They just, care that you're late. But the whole process of you, if you were to look at it like a timeline, and part of that timeline you can't see yet because you have to go from point A to point B to point C. You might be at D and F right now, not even see the rest coming. But this whole timeline of you writing the song and having Shaggy, present it and talk to him, and you meeting them, is all part of what's supposed to be happening for you. So when you, like you said, when you feel like you're doing what you should be doing and meeting the people that you were destined to meet to continue on your journey, it's just kind of like that when you look back and you realize where you were compared to where you are right now. But those moments of clarity, like when you're in, a club and, people are talking, it's completely different when you're on stage, in your element. You have those moments of being humbled, and then you have those moments of feeling like you're on top of the world.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. The next thing I wanted to ask you is everybody has a funny or memorable or even a strange experience while they tour, they perform. Can you think of one that really stands out in your mind that you'd be willing to share?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I got a couple.
I know there's tons of them, but just something that you would be willing to share.
Let's see. Show experiences. So being able to hold it together in the midst of something happening in the audience, that's a big one for me. And I think that's a reoccurring test that I always have to pass. So one time, earlier on in my career, I was playing a show and I was about to go on and they were about to announce me. And a woman was sitting in front of like a sconce, which had a candle on it. So a wall sconce. It's basically a sconce. If people don't know what a sconce is, it is a decorative candle holder that will attach to the wall, let's just say. So there was a woman who was sitting in front of one and the candle was lit and she tilted her head back and her hair caught on fire. And it was not her real hair, so it went up in a blaze very quick. So
oh my goodness.
It became, so in order to put this fire out now, people around her are smacking this lady in the head viciously.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So imagine that's a situation and a scenario that occurs right before I'm about to get on stage and sing about love and heartbreak. So people were just, there was a lot of laughter and commotion going on, and I had to kind of reel them back in. And I think that kind of taught me that, comedy is a part of the experience too. And if there's a way to make your crowd laugh or to seize the moment to take advantage of an already funny situation, go ahead and go with it, go with the moment.
Right.
Don't try to make it all, I think back then I probably tried to make it all about me and change the vibe. And now the difference between me then and now is now I would just go with it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get on stage and act like nothing ever happened. That's being a little too stoic for me. I'm going to not make fun of it, but I'm going to go into the situation a little bit more, let's just say. Another
so
time
did she stay at the show or did she have to leave?
She stayed, but her ponytail was a lot shorter. It was tough. She had it about as tough as I did, maybe tougher.
Oh, that is hilarious! My goodness. That is funny. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just trying to visualize all of that happening before you were going on stage. That is wild. I know that's a show that she'll never forget.
Oh, yeah. Never.
So Cam, what is coming up for you in the coming months and on into the new year?
Well, next week, the 6th of December, I have a show. I was blessed to be able to get added to a show for Robert Glasper here in Atlanta. So that's going to be really, really cool. I get to do a nice acoustic set before his show starts. So it's going to be a nice little package. And obviously promoting Give It a Try as well. Grammy season is coming up, and the album that Don't Make Me Wait was a part of, as well as the song itself, was on some preliminary Grammy ballots, so we'll be able to know where that stands. I feel pretty good about some of the categories. Yeah.
Good.
And then, Give It a Try has been doing really well, so probably be doing some promo touring, spot dates, and definitely some more writing. I always like to keep my pen sharp, but people should expect to see me out here in different venues all over the place, whether it's me by myself or me with the band, just kind of giving what it is I do directly to the audience. I'm really big on connecting with my audience. I don't really want to call them fans. My audience is who I make the music for. It's who I hope to be happy when I perform for them. So I think it's only right that I choose to engage with them in as many ways as I can. So just trying to develop new ways to engage with my audience also. So I'll be around for sure.
Oh, you'll definitely be around, most definitely. Well, as you know, with being a musician and creativity, comes in many forms. We talked about that a lot during our chat today. How are you, since this is my Moved by the Music segment, how are you moved by the music?
Okay, so in order for me not to get crazy abstract, how do you want me to frame my response to that?
For example, music has, power to evoke, memories. It has the power to make people feel a certain way. When you think of music on a whole, how are you moved by it?
Cool. Music has moved me by the way that it allows people to communicate with one another. And I've seen that firsthand by performing songs in English to a crowd of Russians, and at the end of the performance, everybody's running up to take pictures and get autographs signed, and we can't even communicate. I can't even tell them, thank you so much. You know what I mean? But they're smiling, and they're even though they can't say what they want to say, I can see what it is they want to say based on their body language and based on the smiles and everything like that. So music has a way of communicating different ideas to different people and allowing certain preconceived notions that we have those walls can be torn down very easily. When people are together and they're watching a show and they're enjoying the same artist and they look to the left and their right, they see people that they might not even have been willing to talk to or stand in line with or stand next to in another type of situation, but that music has brought them together and they can share a moment. So, everything you said before is totally true about, being connected to memories and everything like that. I think for me, speaking another language, music has become apparent to me that music is a language in and of itself. Even if you're listening to music by itself, if you're listening to jazz, it could speak to you in a different way. And I think that's cool. Even though songwriters are out here trying to tell us what we should think and feel, we still have plenty of room as listeners to kind of get our own understanding from each song we listen to.
Yes, we definitely do. And, Cam, you have an amazing voice. You're awesomely talented, and it's been a great pleasure talking with you today, and I'm looking forward to more of the grand things you're going to be doing with your career. So I know you're going to be doing much more, and it's just going to get better, more better, more better, more better.
Yes, I appreciate it as well. I mean, the conversation has been great. It's been eye-opening for me too, in terms of, you know, it steers me in a direction, because the creativity doesn't stop; it keeps going. So I want to be able to be influenced by every conversation that I have about music and writing and the process. So I appreciate it once again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so very much, and you take care. We'll be seeing you real soon.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Take care as
Okay.
well.